Hey guys, we've got a tutorial today on what I like to call Netherstep. You can see I'm doing them on screen now. And you see a lot of pros do this in game. You know, if they pull it off right, it really turns an advantage. And it looks super cool doing it, so why the hell not, right? The reason I'm making this guide is because it's been particularly excruciating for me to actually try and learn these myself, because there's not actually many in-depth guides on this. So what I'm aiming to do is just put together something that's efficient so that you can skip out some of the trial and error that I had to go through, and hopefully you can learn this more efficiently. I'll also just go through some scenarios where this is actually useful, and the scenarios where you probably wouldn't want to use it, which is pretty much the majority of situations, but we'll get into that later. So, straight into this. First thing we want to do when we reach the training room is you want to pick the Godslayer Legendary. It's important that your reversal hits, and also you need to have a new loadout. Please do make space for it, because it's going to be very useful for you in just getting your cooldowns as quickly as possible. So we've got Seething Hatred maxed and Power of the Abyss maxed out. They're the two most important. The other three are there just to top up. So we've got cooldown on Reversal, Quick Reload, and also Eliminations. On your utilities as well, you want to max out Chronos, and you want to max out Deft Hands. The point of this is that we just want to make sure our cooldowns and our reload are as quick as possible, so then we can train at our own pace, and we're not waiting around for all these cooldowns before you can actually go and do your next bunch of shots. Now, before we begin the Netherstep themselves, I would recommend doing some Flickshots beforehand. I do short, medium, and long range, and just practice a few different angles as well. It's kind of important that you do these warm-ups really, because the Netherstep somewhat make use of Flickshots. You'll see in the explanation later, so I highly recommend you do this before starting. Right, we're almost ready to begin, but there is one more explanation I need to give you before we start. Now, there's a few methods you can actually do these Netherstep, but there are two main ways that I've identified that I'll be going through in this tutorial. Now, one's an easy way, which I don't really recommend you learning, but it is good enough. And then there's a hard way, which takes a lot of time to learn, but it is more of a finished product. And I'll get into the explanation for that later. But let's start with this first method. Now, the idea of this is to stray from one side to the other and shoot just before you dash. Now, the steps to this is that you want to look to one side, do your dash, and then quickly look back to the target. Just like this. To begin with, you'll be quite far off in terms of where your crosshair is, just like I was then. You know, I'm trying to aim at Ying, but I was way far off aiming at Sky, and that's normal. You will need some muscle memory for this, so it takes some time getting used to. So first thing you want to practice is these steps, but do not shoot, because you really want to work on your camera angle before you begin any shooting. And remember, the steps are massively important. It has to be done in that same order. So you want to look, dash, look back, shoot. Those 4 steps have to be done in order. Otherwise, it gets very messy and you end up disorientating yourself very easily. So let me show you what I mean by this. I'm trying to look to the right and then dash. But what's happening is that I'm pressing my F before I look to the right, and that's causing me to dash forward instead of going to the right. And you know, this will then throw off my aim, because I'm not going in the direction I'm supposed to be, and it makes you charge directly at the target, which is not what you want, because you'll probably end up getting hit right in the face. So yeah, just remember those steps, practice them first, and then get the shots in later. What I absolutely want you to avoid is to dash and then slowly track your way back to the target like this. Now, the reason you don't want to be doing that is because you're using hand-eye coordination to slowly track back to your target. And that's not what the motion is about. You're trying to train your muscle memory not your hand-eye coordination. So you need to be quick in readjusting the crosshair right from the get-go. It'll be a steep learning curve, but it's the correct way to learn it. Finally, you just need to add your shot. And that's all there is to it. You just need to gradually build speed and maintain that muscle memory so that you're doing this correctly. And obviously the importance here is accuracy. If you're missing majority of your shots or all of your shots, slow down the process, get used to it, relearn, make sure you landed your shots, and then start building on your speed slowly. And eventually you'll be doing it like this. Now in practice it's going to be way harder to use than in the shooting range because your targets are going to be moving around. But the situations you want to be using this are in high pressure situations or solo situations where you want to mitigate damage but also land shots so that you can finish your target. For example here we've got a Charlin. He's a heavy hitter and you know I'm at a fair distance from him so he can land me quite easily. So what I do here is use these strafes or use these never shots to then dodge his arrows and then also finish him off as well. You can also use it to chase enemies or peer around corners like I do with the Meave here. When targets are low health and they're running away, this is very useful for tapping them just before they get around that corner and get away from you. It's also good for this Victor, who's got some cover here behind a block, so you can quickly dash to the side so that you can see him more easily and immediately fire your shots out. And as you try and use this more and more in gameplay, you'll start spotting situations where you can actually use it. It's not purely for showboating. It does help you in a lot of high pressure situations. It's simply just great for mitigating damage while also landing your damage on the targets as well. But of course, there are situations it's simply impractical to be using it, and there's a better use of your Netherstep. Like here with Ceres, she's all on her own, Torvald's backing me up, and I'm in range so I can land my full damage. There's absolutely no point in wasting a Netherstep just to finish her off when I could have easily done it by running at her. Also, this situation, we have a Khan who's got a fair bit of health, and there's also an Inara backing him up. So really, the best use of my Netherstep there was to just simply run away and find a damage or support to go and kill. Or here, where we've got an Eevee who's a highly mobile target, and we've got our entire team attacking her. There was absolutely no need for me to be using the shots here. Last thing I want to mention also, just make sure before you do this, you either run in sleight of hands or you at least have ammo. Or you'll end up reloading midway through, just like I am here. Okay guys, that's everything you actually needed to know to learn how to do these never shots. So good luck with that, and hopefully you'll be doing them in no time. So now this final section is going to cover the other method that you can do these never shots, which is the more difficult way and the cleaner way. To start off, I want you to look at these two clips side by side, and I want you to see if you can spot the difference between them. At first glance, it might seem that the first clip was faster than the second one, but if you actually play them side by side, they're actually the same speed, or I'd say it was ever so slightly slower on the second one, but essentially both methods allow you to achieve the same speed that you shoot. It's just that the second method is much cleaner than the first one. The reason it's so much cleaner is that it makes use of flick shots. Now, the first one does somewhat use flick shots, but it's actually using muscle memory to do the adjusting of your crosshair and camera angle. And then the final bit is using some hand-eye coordination to find your target. The second method, on the other hand, is dashing to one side and then immediately doing your flick shot. Now, the reason why this is more reliable than the first method is you can reliably train your muscle memory to do flick shots and to do flick shots at all different angles. So then when it comes to doing these never shots, if you're going to dash to the side, you roughly know where your target is, you can reliably use your muscle memory to do a flick shot without having to frantically trying to aim. I'm going to call this the flick shot method, by the way. So the flick shot method, another reason why it's better, it might seem vague, but you do get more time to just focus, orientate, and aim your shot because you're not frantically trying to shift your mouse about. The flick shot essentially does the orientation for you. You just get some more time to think. Now, it seems a bit vague, I know, but if you give this a try, if you try learn the second way or the flick shot way, you'll probably see what I mean. It will feel much cleaner and it'll feel much tidier, less sloppy than the first method. Let's finally show you how to train in the flick shot method. So, obviously you'll need to train your flick shots, and you'll need to do them quite often. I personally do them for about an hour a day, or I get 300 streak in the shooting range. And you want to train your flick shots specifically catered to the never shots. So, for example, in the sky room, I'm going to look towards the wall on the left side, and I'm going to flick shot to my right at the middle target. And then I'll do the same on the right side wall, where I'll do flick shots to the left side at the middle target. Then putting this together, you then do your dash, flick shot, dash, flick shot. Once you've got those steps down, it's just a case of building up speed. So the steps are much simpler than the first method. It's just a case that the flick shots take a lot of practice to get down. So you will find it difficult at first. You'll be missing shots here, there, everywhere, just like I am in these clips. But it gets better. And you'll find that as you slowly get better, you will more consistently land shots than you would if you learned the first method. If you want more information on how to do flick shots, I've left a link in the description for a video by a YouTuber called Second. He's got the most crazy flick shots I've ever seen, and his tutorial's really good. So if you're unfamiliar with flick shots or you need more information about it, I definitely recommend this video right here. Otherwise, this is the end of the tutorial. Guys, really appreciate you watching this. I hope you found this massively useful. And I certainly hope you now learn the never shots way quicker than I did, as you have a full guide to your disposal. It's took me a while to make this, so, any likes, shares, subscribes, or anything like that, any kind of love, be much appreciated. But otherwise, I'll see you guys in another video next time. Take care.